Okay, next video. So this video is about the thinking and behaviour cycle. This thinking and behaviour cycle, I first came into contact with it through a programme called Foundations of Recovery from Emerging Horizons, or Emerging Futures, Emerging Horizons. Both two arms of the same thing, I believe. And I've had a bit of help with this from Damien Grainer in that he sent me some information about it. I used to work delivering this in group sessions, and when I delivered it, I thought this is really quite good. This can kind of help explain to me at least the process that we go through when we repeat negative behaviours. You know, if you've ever said that, well, I'm not doing that again. Right, that's it, I'm not doing that again. And then found yourself doing it, this kind of explains that process a little bit. And I think so it was in Foundations of Recovery, and it was taken from, I think it's Texas Christian University. If I'm wrong, I'll correct it in the comments bit. I'll get straight into it anyway. So, firstly, we have the event or the trigger. So if you've done any stuff around substance misuse, you'll know what I mean by trigger. If you don't, this can be something that basically triggers off or evokes, you know, maybe thoughts of using or thoughts of slipping into a negative behaviour. I think the easiest way for me to illustrate this as well will be for me to give an example. Okay, so for my event and trigger, this might be that every Friday night I normally go out and I use cocaine and I drink excessive amounts of alcohol. So the trigger might be Friday night rolls around, it's payday, my mates might be texting me, I'm being triggered off. The kind of the triggers there to make me start giving the behaviour mental attention. So I'll have thoughts and feelings around the negative behaviour or the problematic behaviour, or in this instance the using cocaine, the drinking alcohol. I might have thoughts and feelings of, oh, I don't want to do that again. You know, I got into a right mess last night, but I might also have euphoric recall, and I might have thoughts and feelings of, oh, it's going to be a good one tonight, and yeah, I'm right looking forward to it. I might stew on it, I might glorify it, I might justify it to myself. Well, I suppose the justification comes more in the next stage. But I think about it, it gathers momentum, it gathers power. So it's gone from being a trigger, which can be something really quick, something really instant, to giving it mental attention, giving it power, starting to develop the thought process around doing it. Then comes permission statement. So this is where I give myself permission to do the thing that I'd previously decided or committed to not do. So I might say to myself, well, I've had a really tough week at work and I didn't go out drinking and taking coke last week. I've had a tough week at work and it's been stressful, and bloody missus has done X, Y and Z. I deserve this. I deserve to get wrecked. I deserve to go out and let my hair down. I've got a stressful life, you know. This, in a nutshell, this permission statement is usually bullshit. It's usually how we lie to ourselves. So we might justify it. We might lie to ourselves and say that this is going to be the last time. We might blame other people. We might say, oh, well, I'm doing this because X, Y and Z pissed me off and upset me. So quite often we lie to ourselves and we give ourselves permission to do the thing that we'd committed to not doing. So I'll say to myself, I deserve to use. I've worked hard all week, saved money last week, didn't do it last week, I'm going to have a sniff and I'm going to get drunk. Then there's the lapse in the behaviour. It might be a relapse, might be a lapse. We will repeat the problem behaviour. We will do the thing that we weren't going to do. Following that, inevitably come a load of feelings. Those feelings might be guilt, regret, ashamed. We might justify what we did, so we might, try and back up our previous justifications and rationalisations by saying things like, well, I only went out because she pissed me off, or I only went out because he kind of dragged me out and said he'd be offended if I didn't come. We might be angry at ourselves, a little bit ashamed, and that spurs us on into something I personally have done 1,000 times before. Solemn vows to never do it again. Right, that's it. I'm not using. I've had enough. Never again. I promise mum, I promise girlfriend, I promise dad. Let's get our shit together. Come on, I won't do it again. I'm really sorry. It won't happen again. And we then go into it again. Friday night always comes round again, doesn't it? And we slip into it and we enter this cycle again. So what can we do about this? What can we do about challenging or addressing this so that we don't use thinking and behaviour cycle? Well, there are a couple of strategies we can use to address this. And there are some places where obviously we're going to be more effective at challenging it. The first thing is to have an awareness. That's why I like some of these models, that's why I like this stuff, because you can be blindly running around on this hamster wheel of stuff and not even realise what's happening. And then when you get introduced to something like this, when I was introduced to this, like some of the other models I've talked about or will talk about, it was like, right, okay, cool. I kind of had a bit of an understanding, and I like to understand how stuff works. I like theory. So having an awareness, recognising the pitfalls, recognising your own behaviour, recognising the dishonesty that comes with this stuff, the self-dishonesty really. Knowing your enemy, knowing that, okay, this trigger, if I then sit there stewing on it, thinking about it, glorifying it, and feelings get attached to that, if I start biting into it, then I can lead into trying to justify, trying to give myself an excuse, trying to give myself permission. If I know that I do that, then I can be on the guard against it. So that's applying a level of self-honesty, which I can apply there, bit late there, definitely a bit late there, no good. It's got to be here. It's got to be here that I start applying that honesty and challenging myself. Or what I can do, if you have trusted people, if you're part of a mutual aid group, if you have people who are supportive of your recovery or supportive of you not repeating the problem behaviour, because I'm not just on about drug use, it could be pizzas. When I first saw this, I related it to takeaway food for myself. Something I'm still a bit of a bugger for, but nobody's going to die. So what you can do, sorry, I digress in there. What you can do is you can reach out to people who are supportive of what you're trying to do. You can kind of grass yourself up, as it were. You can ring up and say, do you know what, Dave, Brian, Ernie, whatever you call, do you know what, Ernie, I'm really thinking about using, my head's having me over and it's telling me to go out and get on it, to go out and get pissed, to go out and have some cocaine. Share it with somebody who's supportive. Not somebody who's going to turn around and say, oh, I'll go halves with you. Obviously not good. And being honest with other people about the rationalisations and justifications, and quite often sometimes just bouncing it back and saying, well, come on, Roland, you know that you're lying to yourself there. It kind of dissipates some of the power that it can gather from this phase, so that it can take some of the power out of it to steal one of those cliches. Other things that can help with it. The honesty thing isn't going to come without you having made a commitment and being motivated to challenge this behaviour, to not do this behaviour. If you have really low levels of motivation to not use cocaine, yeah, to you know, if you're more motivated to use cocaine than you are to stop using cocaine, then the rest of it's, you know, it's just not going to work really. So you have to have made some sort of internal commitment or decision and to work at it, and that'll quite often mean falling on your face a few times, realising what's happening to you, realising I fell down that pitfall again, having the awareness I fell down that hole again. Right, what am I going to do? Apply some of the stuff I talked about last time, reflect on the situation, think about, right, what happened, why did it happen, what am I going to do next time? Failing once that doesn't mean it's over, that just means time for a bit of self-honesty and reapplying oneself to it. Asking for help, you know, that's a big one, isn't it, for people. I personally, you know, you can stop me in the street and I might have a leg hanging on by a thread of skin and you can say to me, how are you doing? And I'll go, yeah, I'm alright. Yeah, I'm cool. Yeah, good. You know, I might be dying inside. I might be really struggling with something. But I'll tell you I'm alright. You know. So asking for help, you know, whether that be mutual aid, whether that be trusted workers, support workers, friends who are supportive of it, just anybody, you know, who you can trust in your life. And if you haven't got people that you can trust, maybe you need to start looking for them. Everybody needs people, don't they? Everybody needs someone. Human beings are a tribal animal, I believe. For years I wandered around trying to convince myself that I was this lone wolf and that I didn't need other people. I still sometimes do, if I'm honest. Trying to put on this facade of I don't need people, disassociating myself, disconnecting myself, and it didn't work. I was in a mess. So another thing that we can do is we can just apply something that's simply called thought stopping. We can challenge it. So when we're toying with the idea and thinking about doing it, when we're dealing with what might be a craving or the urges or the feelings associated with I'm going to do or I'm thinking of doing, we can just stop. No, stop it. That might even be loudly verbalising it and saying, no, stop thinking about this, Roland. I'm going out, I'm going to the gym, I'm going to ring my mate, you know, just kind of stopping it in its tracks. And diverting, you know, distracting oneself. You know, I used to hear people talk about, there used to be quite some derogatory talk around being a dry drunk, you know, being someone who wasn't drinking or using, but not applying certain models of recovery. And what I say is do whatever works for you, do whatever works for you and gives you a feeling of contentment, whatever you can live with, do you know what I mean? So one of the things people used to be derogatory about is they'd say, oh, he's become a workaholic. If you're not hurting anyone and you're working your ass off, but it means you're not using and you're not running around damaging yourself and you're not running around damaging other people, crack on, be a workaholic. That's my opinion. If it's hitting the gym, if it's, I don't know, going to the library, whatever it might be, just do something else. Do something that gets you off that track that's going to lead to there. It's better to be a little bit obsessed with knitting or the gym or whatever it might be. It's a little better to be obsessed with that than constantly repeating that, suffering the blow to your self-esteem that you often feel once you've done that. It's better than being trapped in that cycle. And the more times you successfully challenge it, the better at it, the more resilient you will become. Just my opinion. This is the bit Damien helped me with. This is, he talked about an offshoot here. Mindfulness. Now, mindfulness, I'm not an expert in mindfulness. One of the things I did find quite helpful is there's an app called Headspace that's available on like smartphones and tablets and all the rest of it. And it's like guided meditations, guided mindfulness type meditations. And there's a guy who talks you through it. And he also has kind of educational, instructional videos sometimes before the guided meditation where it explains what mindfulness is, how to apply it, blah blah blah, and really excellent way of describing it was that he used, the bloke in the app, was he talks about our thoughts being like traffic on a busy motorway, and mindfulness being that you can sit on the verge of the motorway and you can observe the traffic, you can observe your thoughts going past, you can see them and you can acknowledge them, but you don't necessarily have to go down and interfere with them or get fused with them. Which I thought was a really good analogy that worked for me. So using Damien's suggestion on this is that when you start experiencing mental attention or cravings or feelings of I might want to do this, or is to not get fused with those, to accept them, to see, okay, right now I'm having feelings of I really quite fancy going out and taking cocaine. I can see that for what it is. I can see it for a drive, an emotion. But I'm not going to get fused with it. I'm not going to, that's just a passing thought, that's just traffic going by me. I don't have to run into the road and get involved with it. I can just observe it, accept it, and let it go. My experience of mindfulness stuff was, it's a skill that requires practice. For me, I kind of got to the stage where I understood it on a head level. Wasn't the best at applying it, but as I say, it requires practice. That was my feeling on it. I used to use the guided meditations, and I found them quite helpful. Doing the meditations, actually practicing that in my then further on life. I have an ability to observe and remain detached from some stuff, but some stuff I fuse with really quick, I attach to it really quick. Anyway, if nothing else, I hope you've got a little bit of awareness, which, as I said before, is one of the tools for kind of challenging this, is recognising what's going on. Recognising that after a trigger you then have a period where mental attention is devoted to the behaviour in question, that you then lie to yourself in some way or justify or rationalise. Good place to challenge it here. Too late here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any thoughts or feelings about any of this, or if you have any questions that you want to ask me, feel free, comment. If you're interested, have a look at my Facebook page, Rolo the Walker Recovery Speaker. I'm not an expert, I just talk about stuff I've learned, stuff I've dealt with, stuff I feel, and I'm quite happy to be challenged and disagreed with on stuff as well. I'm not going to spit my dummy out if somebody disagrees with me. I figure stuff out by talking about it with people. So discussion is cool. Alright, anyway, thank you for watching it till now, if you have done. What I think I'm going to do in some following videos as well is, throughout the time kind of using and not using as well, throughout my time living, there have been some amusing kind of anecdote type things that I thought to myself, yeah, I'm going to tell people some of them silly or funny or sometimes slightly disturbing stories, but usually mostly funny with hindsight. Alright, cool. Thanks for your time. See you later. Bye bye.